I've put chimney sweep as the least deadly. It still killed most of them by age 12. The worst job on this list makes that look like a paid vacation. In Victorian England, children as young as 4 were sent up chimneys because they were small enough to fit. Their masters would light small fires under them to make them climb faster. Their lungs? Here's the thing. Filled with soot, their knees and elbows rubbed raw against brick. And many developed a cancer called sootwort that ate through their cheeks and into their jawbones. A step worse was the Matchstick factory girls. In the 19th century, matches were made with white phosphorus. The women and girls who dipped the sticks would absorb the chemical through their skin and breathe its vapors. It caused a condition called phossy jaw, where the jawbone began to glow green in the dark, then rotted away entirely, and finally had to be surgically removed while the patient was still awake. Then there were the sewer hunters. In Victorian London, before modern plumbing, the sewers were a labyrinth of human waste, dead animals, and discarded industrial chemicals. Poor men and women would wade through this filth, searching for coins, jewelry, and scrap metal. The methane gas alone caused explosions, and the rats were aggressive enough to attack humans. Most sewer hunters died of disease within 3 years. Radium dial painters were almost all young women in the 1920s. They painted watch faces with glow-in-the-dark radium paint. They were told the paint was harmless, and they licked their brushes to get a fine point. They swallowed radium every day. Their jaws rotted, their bones turned to Swiss cheese, and many died with their skeletons still glowing decades later. The coal miners of the Industrial Revolution had it worse. Children as young as 5 worked 14-hour shifts underground in total darkness, breathing coal dust. They opened and closed ventilation doors for a few pennies a day. Cave-ins buried them alive. Explosions from methane gas turned tunnels into crematoriums. Black lung disease killed the survivors slowly over decades. Construction workers on the Hoover Dam faced 120-degree heat inside the diversion tunnels. Workers collapsed from heat stroke daily. Carbon monoxide from truck exhaust filled the unventilated tunnels. Some fell into wet concrete and were buried alive because stopping the pour would weaken the structure. Their bodies are still inside that dam today. 19th century whalers had a life expectancy of about 2 voyages. When a harpooned whale dove, the rope could snap a man's leg off. When it surfaced, it could smash the entire boat with its tail. And the work of cutting up a 60-ton animal on a pitching deck covered in blood and oil meant that most whalers simply slipped and drowned, or were crushed between the whale and the ship. Pearl divers in the Persian Gulf and Japan descended up to 100 feet on a single breath with rocks tied to their feet. Sharks, jellyfish, and the bends killed most of them by age 30. The pressure ruptured their eardrums so regularly that most divers were completely deaf by the time they were 20. A good diver might make 200 dives a day. A great diver died rich at 30, with lungs that looked like they belonged to an 80-year-old. The worst job is actually worse. Before we get there, let me explain how tanning worked. Tanners turned animal hides into leather by soaking them in solutions of dog feces, pigeon droppings, and urine. The ammonia from the urine was the active chemical. Tanners stood knee-deep in these vats all day, absorbing bacteria through their skin, breathing fumes that permanently scarred their lungs. Most tanners died of anthrax within 5 years of starting. Almaden mercury miners in Spain had it even worse. Mercury was essential for refining silver. The prisoners and slaves sent to these mines knew they were dead men walking. Mercury poisoning attacks the nervous system first. You can't stop your hands from shaking, so you can't eat without spilling. Then your teeth fall out. Then you go insane. The average lifespan in the Almaden mines was 6 months. The people who built the pyramids were not slaves. Mostly. They were paid laborers. But the work still killed them. The average pyramid worker lived to about 30. Their spines were compressed from lifting 2-ton stones. Their joints were destroyed by years of dragging loads across sand. Medical papyri of ancient Egypt describe workers with broken backs, crushed feet, and hernias so large they could no longer stand upright. Salt miners in 18th century Poland spent their entire lives underground. They were lowered into the mine as children and never saw the sun again. They ate, slept, married, and raised families in underground chambers lit by oil lamps. Their skin turned translucent white. Their eyes became useless in natural light, and their lungs calcified from salt dust. When they died, they were buried in the same tunnels where they had lived. The worst job in human history belongs to the match factory girls. Not because of the pain, but because they were lied to. The company knew white phosphorus was deadly. They covered up the medical reports. They paid off doctors. They fired girls whose jaws started to glow. One survivor, when asked decades later what she remembered most, said she remembered the company dentist pulling all her teeth out one by one without anesthesias, because that was cheaper than shutting down the factory. The Radium girls eventually sued and won, establishing the right of workers to sue employers for occupational diseases. The chimney sweep boys led to child labor laws in Britain. Every worker protection you have today, weekends, safety regulations, the right to refuse unsafe work, was paid for by people who did these jobs and died. That does not make it better, but they deserve to be remembered. Here's the thing. They woke up every morning and went to work knowing it was killing them, because the alternative was watching their children starve. That is not a job. That is a slow, invisible sacrifice. If you want more stories the history books skip, subscribe. And tell me in the comments, would you rather spend one day as a radium dial painter or one day as an Almaden mercury miner?